And welcome back. We finally have the successor to the beloved X-T4, but is it a step back from what the X-T4 was? Let's find out. Now, quick disclaimer, I don't have an X-T5 in my hands. I would love, but I don't have it. But I'm an X-H2 and X-H2S user, and I've been using X-T3 and X-T4 for a long time before. So I know what I'm talking about, even if I don't have the camera in my hand. So let's just dive into it. Now, photography first. If you have looked at the Fuji event that was held today, November the 2nd, 2022, it immediately starts with telling us what this camera is, which is a photography first camera. It's the first time since a long time that Fujifilm tells us we are focusing on photography first. All of the previous top-end models were all about being hybrid, and that's where some of the steps back have been taken, but we'll get to it in a moment. So this X-T5 is all about it's not all about photography, but it's about photography first and then video. And as a photography first type of camera, it made the design team make some changes to what the X-T4 was that may not be to everyone's taste. Now, let's start with some of the specs. You probably know them way better than I do, so let's go fast. It boasts the new 40 megapixel sensor from the X-H2, and it shares the same processor. So you can expect the same level of performance and image quality. If you haven't looked at my previous video on the X-H2, go have a look at it here, I guess. Here, I never remember. So same autofocus, same processor, same overall approach to what the camera can do. It's got the same pixel shift technology. It's got 7-stop IBIS, which is kind of a bold statement. It shares the same classical looks and control from the X-T line that we all loved. And it's similar to the X-T4, basically same kind of control to the X-T4, including that genius video still switch that I loved in the X-T4 and that I am missing on the X-H2 and X-H2S, but more on that in another video. It shares the same dual SD card slot that the X-T4 and X-T3 had. It shares the same inputs and outputs of the X-T4, meaning that you don't have the full-size HDMI or the headphone jack, although you have an adapter included. It is smaller and lighter compared to the X-T4, and this is something that Fuji is definitely trying to push to the customer base, that they're going back to smaller and more lightweight cameras compared to the X-T4, which is good, which is many of the users that started using Fuji were at first they were drawn into the system thanks to the size and the looks and the controls. But this also means that the flippy screen is gone. It's now being replaced with a 3-way tilt screen similar to that of the X-T3. There's no battery grip option, and in general it has less eye-catching video performance compared to those of the X-T4. Despite this camera being a photography first camera, we definitely have very good video specs in the X-T5, and sharing the same sensor and processor of the X-H2, it was kind of expected. Although, being a photography first camera, some of those specs had to be dropped for both the decision of having SD over the CF Express and I think for heat management purposes. But let's cover these very quickly. There's no 8K. It is just 6K and it's cropped in. This means that it probably is a 1:1 pixel readout, so not an oversampled 6K. There's 4K 30 high quality, but that is cropped in as well. There is 4K 30 non high quality, which is full sensor, and it's also 4K 60 cropped, as well as 1080 240p cropped as well. The bit rate, the maximum bit rate is 360 megabit per second, which is even less, slightly less than the X-T4 that would get, if I'm not wrong, to 400. Although with 360, there's plenty of image quality to work with, and you can shoot 422 10-bit H.265 internally. You, however, dropped the capacity to shoot internal ProRes, and this is basically due to the lack of a CF Express card. Even in the XH2, you can only write that into a CF Express card. And compared to the XH2, the maximum bitrate is down from 720 to 360. You can, however, shoot the raw file through the micro HDMI. There's no full-size HDMI. There's no, as I mentioned already, headphone jack. There's no flippy screen, and overall, there's a little bit less options for video compared to the XH2, and in part to compared to the X-T4. This basically means that the camera can definitely be used for high-quality video productions. But at the same time, the fact that there are more video-centric cameras around makes the X-T5 not your primary choice when it comes to shooting videos. It is a very good photo camera that can shoot very good videos, but it's not a true hybrid like the X-T4 and now the XH2 and X2S are. So why did I say this was a step back compared to the X-T4? Well, the reason to me is simple. The X-T5 no longer has the pressure to be the flagship camera. It doesn't have to fulfill that position in Fujifilm lineups, and that means that the designer could have more freedom in picking what they want to keep and what they wanted to take away from the camera, and give the camera a more clear direction towards one way or another. Meaning that they decided that the core business of this camera was photography. And since they chose photography first, which is basically great, as most of the Fujifilm user fan base is photography first type of people. So it's not that they are doing anything wrong, but they went in a direction that goes away from what the XT line has developed in the last years. So going toward three-way tilted screen, it's something that will make a lot of XT user very happy, and there's a lot of people that will immediately upgrade because there's not flippy screen, but there's this kind of screen. And personally, for photography, I get it. It's really easy to prefer this kind of screen over a flippy screen when it's photography only. It keeps the great image quality coming from the XH2, especially at a low ISO. It is smaller and lighter, again, something that the Fujifilm fan base have been asking as the cameras were going bigger and bigger and bigger. In the presentation, they told us that basically it's got almost the same size of the X-T1, although it's thicker, but they decided not to mention that. But again, they're aiming at that kind of potential buyers, which is photography first, smaller, lightweight, travel camera with great performance, of course, because again, we're talking about great performance anyways. But by choosing this, they're kind of giving up its hybrid nature, despite they are keeping the stills and video switch. And this, while it's making a lot of X-T3 user happy, is gonna make a lot of X-T4 user unhappy because of this choice, for a couple of reasons. Because one, the XH2 and XH2S are not to everyone's taste. Two, those cost more. Three, there are people, and there are a lot of people that would love to keep the design philosophy of the X-T4 with the upgraded technology coming from the XH2. And those that were waiting this kind of camera were disappointed because they're not getting it, and doesn't seem that they're gonna get one anytime soon, because now Fujifilm is definitely, and we're gonna get to it in a bit, is going to definitely set apart the photography, the cameras lineups in a way that it's well more defined. Now, that being said, if I'm instructing myself, I would have loved to see an X-T4 with the X-T5 technology in it. So I'm one of those that would have loved to see that. But if I extract myself from the equation and I look at it from an outsider point of view, I definitely understand the need for the three-way tilt screen. It makes a lot of Fuji user happy. And as I said, I would have preferred if it was a photography only type of person, or someone that never stays in front of the camera. Let's put it this way. And it's great to see the dimensions and weight going down, despite keeping the new battery, despite keeping a lot of technology. It's great to see that the 40 megapixel sensor is trickling down in the camera's lineup, and it's great to see a photocentric X-T line camera as well, because for as much as I would have loved that kind of camera, I understand that there was a need for a more photocentric X-T type of camera. Although I have a big concern, because they are making this a photocentric camera, and what I don't understand is there's a lot of Fujifilm photographer that, yeah, they like the smaller size, they like everything, and they like the fact that it's a photocentric camera, but there's a lot of them that want to use, at times, maybe not every day, but at times they want to use a battery grip option. Now, why getting rid of this possibility by not even having any connector on the bottom of the camera? I don't really understand it, because a battery grip makes a lot more sense for photography purposes than for videography purposes, if we take away those battery grips that add a lot of functionality. But if we're talking about a normal battery grip that gives you the battery, the shutter, the AF on, the joystick, and not much more, why getting rid of that possibility? I really don't understand it. This choice doesn't make any sense at all, and it kind of feels like they decided to fall short in something almost on purpose. Aside from that decision, I think that this camera is gonna make those who don't need a flipper screen and those who are not planning to use a battery grip at all, it will make all of those people really, really happy, because this camera seems to have it all, seems to be a great package, and coming from the use of an XH2, I can already tell you that it's gonna have great AF, it's gonna have great image quality, it's gonna have great photographic performance and very good video performance as well. So those people are gonna be really, really happy. And this camera is gonna be basically overkill for the vast majority of photographers that are gonna be willing to pick it up. And it's also good to see that, at least in the States, the price remained basically the same of the X-T4. In Europe, due to the weak euro, we are probably going to pay more than we paid for the X-T4, but that's something we cannot control. And as I mentioned before, The way they design the X-T5 is telling us what the future of the X system camera is going to be. We are going to have the XH and the XS line be the hybrid video-centric type of cameras, and XT, X Pro, and XE line, if the XE line keeps going, is going to be focused on photography even more. I expect in the next X Pro 4 and then next E4, XE5, I expect even less video-centric features and more like going back to the roots kind of choices when it comes to designing the body. We'll see. I'm very curious. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe, because there's a lot more videos coming up. One of those is going to be on that huge beast over there that is basically sitting below my XH2. Let me know in the comments below what your guess is on what that lens is. And that's it. Ciao, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.